Okay, so this week we're playing at the Western Sydney Wargamers 1500 point tournament, and Alasdair very nicely offered to also reveal his list and run through this beautiful looking army that he's put on the screen. Alasdair, do you mind just we've got a lot of context for the tournament already, but just going through your what you've chosen. You don't need to elaborate too much, Jim. We'll go into more detail, but
Sure.
just the different units you have here and the different items and things that you've taken with them.
Definitely. So, off the top, I suppose the army is led by a Dark Elf Master holding a Headsman's axe. He's in full plate, but other than that, he's rolling around just with that killing blow and extra strength. He's supported by a Supreme Sorceress, a level 4, with the Tome of Furion to give her that extra spell. She'll be running Elementalism. And then we have two support casters. We have two level 2 sorceresses currently having their place taken by a couple of Doomfire Warlocks that I had
Yeah.
rolling around. But both sorceresses are rolling Daemonology, and I'll talk about why.
Mhm.
If it's immediately obvious, I'll talk about why in a second. The core of the army is a pair of 5-man Dark Rider units, both running repeater crossbows and shields. And then we've got 14 repeater crossbows also with shields, and a Lordling sitting in there for that couple of extra points of ballistic skill for when it really matters. The linchpin around around which the whole army sort of turns is this 20-man unit of Blackguard. They have the Lordling is equipped with a couple of obsidian lodestones to make them a hard target for magic. And they're equipped with the Banner of Hagenef to give them an extra point of AP on those Dread Halberds. And I'll talk about those in a second as well. Finally, to wrap things out and to help me deal with a little bit of the monster threat or the high toughness threat, I've got a pair of Reaper Bolt throwers to sit up the back and roll out some punishment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the next slide is just your core. Did you want to go to the
Yes.
characters first and talk about those, or did you want to do the core?
Yeah, let's chat a little bit about the characters because
Yeah.
they're kind of the impetus for the list.
Yeah.
I actually really wanted to run an assassin instead of
Oh yeah.
the Dark Elf Master, but unfortunately, in order to run Blackguard, you must have a Dark Elf Noble. So he's kind of sort of filling that gap of being able to hit something really hard. Killing Blow is so valuable in the old world at the moment, being able to deal with monstrous cavalry and monstrous infantry, which is hugely important. But this list is a little bit thematic. It's not the most, I don't know if I'd call it meta or the most fussed over in terms of, I want to have multi units, I want to have different things
Mm.
filling different roles. Really, I wanted to lean into the strengths that Dark Elves have been left as one of the legacy factions in
Yeah.
this edition. And one of those strengths, really plainly, is the fact that you can have cheap sorcerers rolling the Daemonology signature spell, the Summoning.
Yeah.
Um, and they have a reroll once per game for when it really, really matters. So, what those sorceresses, the two mounted sorceresses, are really going to do is they're light artillery. So, they're hypermobile. They're going to be rolling around potentially with the Dark Riders if they need a little bit of protection against opposing shooting. But they really are there to get around a level 4, sit outside that dispel bubble, and just unleash on whatever they can target with that 2d6 strength 4 AP -1 summoning
Mhm.
hits. Auto hits I found to be, also one of those singularly important pillars of doing damage consistently.
Yeah.
And while I'm not sure whether you'd call a 9+ cast off a level 2 consistent, at the same time, they're quite effective when they're sort of left to their own devices. So it's leaning a little bit into that dark elf strength, that I suppose that narrative element of having a strong sorceress base, and the level 4 obviously sits in with the core of the army, providing a dispel bubble of her own, and making sure that the army is supported with those elementalism spells, which can be really effective for sort of fending someone off from getting a bit close, letting the shooting do its work, letting the sorceress, the level 2s, get a few more extra wounds in as well.
Yeah, so you get Tome of Furion, so you're getting nearly all the spells,
Yes.
Elementalism,
Yeah.
and then the summoning and whatever else you can pick up, I suppose, as the level 2s.
Yeah,
On the
there are
hunt.
some ideal ones for the level 2s that I'd really hope for. Gathering Darkness.
Yeah.
I feel now that obviously our pairings have been released for the
Oh yeah.
weekend.
So who are you paired against first?
I'm playing our Bretonian player,
Oh, nice.
who's
Yeah.
rolling around. For those of you who don't know, he's rolling around with a Pegasus bomb,
Mm.
which is terrifying. That's 500 points of combat characters backed up by 200 points of mounted Pegasi. It's basically a Duke with like 8 extra wounds. But yeah, terrifying. Really, really hard hitting. Lots of attacks at Initiative 7, Initiative 8 before really anything is able to get to grips with them. So it'll be interesting to see what I'm able to get away with against such a hypermobile and strong opponent.
Yeah, we did that, and the core is pretty standard, but the characters that I would be terrified of as Duke. It would knock off a lot of my
It's
monsters
going to
pretty
be
easily.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how he goes. I'm a little sad that I'm paired up against him to begin with, but I suppose we'll see. Anything can happen, and that's one of the really valuable things about having that Headsman's axe on the master, because Killing Blow can affect monstrous cavalry. There is a chance, however slim, that he might just take out 357 points. Who knows?
There is. It'd be a great story. We'll go back to the core and have a look.
Sure.
As you mentioned, so you've got your Dark Riders and Repeater Crossbowmen.
Yes. So the Dark Riders are extraordinary harassers. They've been really great for me. I've most often, I should say, been playing against Chaos Dwarves, Warriors of Chaos, and Ogres.
Yep.
All of which bring different things to bear. But the Dark Riders being able to counter enemy screens, being able to hit and run really, really effectively. The repeater crossbows actually pack a reasonable punch once you get within half range and you're landing lots of extra hits. And if you get lucky, I mean, anything can happen with those multiple shots. So the Dark Riders, making sure that I have a little bit of mobility in this list, making sure that I've got the opportunity to do a few redirects if I absolutely need to, and in a last-ditch effort to charge into the side of something where I feel like the combat results might really matter. The repeater crossbowmen themselves, Dark Elf infantry is in a pretty sad state, the core infantry. Unfortunately, the dread spears, I can't even remember what the bleak swords, there we go, and the dark shards as they were at the end of 8th. All of them are functionally the same weapon skills, same initiative, same number of attacks, same leadership, same armor. The only difference that realistically is that you're paying a couple of extra points for the repeater crossbows on these guys. But I feel that being able to touch your opponent at range is a lot better than waiting for something to come hit you and then not necessarily even being able to strike, given that a lot of things on the charge are initiative 6 or higher. And the Dark Elf infantry only have initiative 4 going up to 5 with elven reflexes. So the crossbows, again, trying to whittle away at whatever they can touch. There's a couple of extra models in there really to make it an effective rank blob if I need to. But yeah, really there just to add a bit of punch, make sure that I'm not leaving anything alone at range, and making the use of the multiple shots off the repeater crossbows.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I feel the Dark Elf core choices sadly could have been better done, but it feels, yeah, the Dark Elf book feels like one of the more afterthoughty books out there, or
Yeah,
PDFs out there, sadly.
Not to gripe, right? But certainly when, the High Elves and the Wood Elves manage to squeeze in as far as supported factions go, there's a little bit of a little bit of resentment there, but make the most of what we have. And I suppose the Black Guard is a great example of that,
Yeah.
because among the infantry choices that Dark Elves have access to, the Black Guard are actually real star. And I can't get enough of these models. These are non GW models, but I can't
Yeah.
get enough of these models because they are just beautiful, and hopefully I'll have a few more of them painted for the weekend. But so the Black Guard, weapon skill 5, strength 3, initiative 5, leadership 9, stubborn. They have immune to psychology. They're extremely strong from from an elven unit profile. But added to that, they've got 2 things that really make them outstanding as a combat block. One of those is the Dread Halberd, which is functionally a halberd, but it has fighting extra ranks, which is really important. And then the other thing that they have access to is martial prowess, which means that no matter if you hit them in the side or the rear, they're going to be providing supporting attacks to that fighting rank. So it means against something like my potentially hypermobile partner on Saturday, even if they suffer a rear charge in a couple of long ranks, lots of elves are still going to be hitting back. Supporting attacks occur even if the fighting rank dies. So there is a lot of retaliatory opportunity there. They're running the Banner of Haganeth just to give them that little bit extra oomph, I suppose. So their strength 4, AP -2 with the banner, and armor bane 1. So they do have the opportunity really to chew through units. And against most things, against most infantry choices, they're really going to have a big impact because they hit first. They have higher weapon skill than most things. They're really going to be chewing through. And the Reapers, bolt throwers are a sleeper choice for war machines, I feel, in this edition. Like the changes to the through and through special rule, where in previous editions when you've shot something with a bolt thrower, you've had to wound for that shot to continue going through a unit. The change to through and through in this one has been, if you hit that unit, you do automatic hits to the number of rank or file that your shot is going through. Yeah, so it's automatically up to the maximum, which is 5. So
it's good to know, because I'm painting high elves and I've sort of been on the fence about repeater bolt throwers, like trying to squeeze them in. And given they only got 2 wounds, I'm a little bit iffy. But yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know that
it's come as a bit of a shock, I suppose, to us, because we've had these things where one of my opponents has presented their side to me and I've gone, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll do this and I'll do some damage, and then really looking at the rule and understanding that it doesn't matter if you're wounding off the first one or not, you get all 5 of those hits. So powerful when particularly you're targeting elite infantry or cavalry. So strong. They're a really nice choice. The repeater bolt thrower, the strength 4, AP -1, it's D3 +3 multiple shots, has its use, I suppose. It's, again, you've got a 5-man unit of Chaos Hounds or some light skirmishers, skinks, something that are running around causing chaos. They do have the opportunity just to add a little bit of clearance. But really, the primary bolts, I feel, are going to be so important on that BS4 profile that, they seem like a bit of an automatic take for playing a more defensive list, where I don't have a lot of bespoke options for monsters or large constructs. I need to have something that's going to be able to add some wounds on at range. One of my friends loves to run Dragon Ogres frequently, and they do have a great record versus Dragon Ogres. So I'm hoping that carries on and continues against some of the larger choices in the weekend's tournament.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, because I worry about Dragon Ogres particularly. If you go back to the top, like, do you have any, like, you spoke about sort of the magic and that being a unifying theme, and then do you have any sort of deployment plans or anything that, we're running 3, we know the scenarios that we're running in order. Do you have any particular overarching strategy for the army in terms of setup?
Yeah, I suppose to not give too much away.
Yes, don't give too much away.
The the idea is that I have to base my formation around the placement of the Blackguard.
Yeah,
They are the workhorse of this list. They need to be touching things in combat. They've got a lot of magic resistance, which is great given the lists that we've seen, because there's a
yeah,
lot of magic missiles being added, lots of ruby rings,
yeah,
lots of things rolling around that could mean the difference. But it's very important for them to be sort of centered and being able to be put to work. Um, I'm not too worried about them being surrounded or them being put out of position again, given martial prowess and the dread halberds. But really, I want to make the most of the shooting that I have available, make the most of the magic, give myself a couple of turns to breathe before getting the Blackguard in there to really operate in the way that they're supposed to. The Blackguard have got drilled. So
yeah.
that was one thing that I did make sure that they have. So depending on the scenario, deploying them in marching column and then getting them out for a fast move followed by a charge could
Mm.
be critical to one or two of the game modes. But I suppose we're looking at a non-standard gun line. I
Yeah.
suppose there's lots of shooting. I want to take my time. I want to have my opponent coming to me. I want to be able to deal with the things that I need to before we make contact, and then make contact under my terms. So we'll just have to see. There's lots of armies with lots of units and lots of
Mm.
different things going on. So it'll be interesting to get out and play this list, which is a little bit of a gamble, but at the same time, like I said, I'm leaning into a bit of a dark elfish theme, making sure that my magic is strong, making sure that I'm fielding some of the best elite infantry in the game, and just getting into the thick of it.
Yeah, look, it looks like a lot of fun. I've always had a soft spot for Dark Elves. It was one of the first armies we owned as kids, and this army
Yeah,
looks great. Definitely
thank you.
crack on, finish the last of the Black Guard. But
there's only
yeah,
there's only 10 of them left.
there's
10 of them
oh
to do
God,
silver and
there's
gold in
only
their
how
battle
long have we
record.
got? 3 days. See how you go, Alasdair. But look, I really appreciate you coming on as well, giving
Thank you
away
for
your
having me.
secrets. I think, yep, thank you for drawing the Bretonian play out first. I appreciate it. But it'll be great to meet you on the weekend. And yeah, we'll go from here.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.